and welcome back to my cake kitchen. My name is Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. I also undertake simple baking sessions, and this was a simple cupcake baking session live that we completed in a previous video. That should be up on the channel right now as you watch this. So we wanted to make some basic cupcakes, but there was a lot of thought in the ingredient selection process and the outcome of the cupcake. Essentially, I wanted a lightly textured, firm cupcake which rose well, didn't overflow. Dome or no dome, I made sure I wasn't bothered about that. But as long as the cupcake rose well, was very tender, and has a delicate crumb. In terms of my ingredient selection, I chose light brown sugar and caster sugar, and the reason being I didn't want the cupcake to be too sweet, but I also didn't want to introduce a lot of flavor. So the light brown sugar is a good selection to give me just a touch of flavor in there, assist a very textured crumb without making it too delicate and too sweet. The cupcake is going to be topped with Russian buttercream. Much of all of that were completed in the previous session, but because we needed the cupcakes to cool, I had to end the live. So this is a return from the first session. I would normally want to bake some cupcakes, so that after the bake session, I will show you what we've done. But I also wanted to bring an exact feel of our actual outcome of what we have baked, so that it doesn't feel like cheating, if that makes sense. So we've gotten the cupcake right over here. There are 11 of them. We made 12, but I had to taste one. So I am going to take one and we're going to kind of break into it. And as you can see, the reason why the cupcake in the cross section here, the reason why we have not a plain white or cream looking cupcake is simply because of the light brown sugar. It's giving it a brownish color, just a little bit, but the crumb is still very firm and delicate, and the cupcake feels rather moist as well, because we had buttermilk to assist with a delicate crumb, slow the development of gluten, and also give us a light crumb to our cupcake. So essentially, that's the cupcake I was looking for. It is nearly midnight, or it's past midnight, and I'm still eating a cupcake. Nobody should ask me where all the cupcakes went, because it's gone into my body, okay? I've checked my weight lately and it's like it's showing. So anyway, so the cupcakes has turned out great. I'll leave the recipe and notes and everything in the description box, but I will encourage you to watch the bake session on the previous video, because this is a return live in the last, let's say half an hour or so. So the initial video of the bake session is over there. It's packed with ton of information for you, and it's not just a recipe. I've talked you through all the entire process, the reasoning behind my ingredient selection, so that you can get the best out of trying this cupcake in your own time. Now, with the cupcake came Russian buttercream. If you haven't heard about Russian buttercream before, it is buttercream that is simply made from adding parts of butter to condensed milk. It can be a little milky, but I've mitigated that in the technique, and also the addition of other ingredients such as a touch of icing sugar and a bit of salt. So you want to make sure your butter is beaten very well to introduce air and to change the consistency and texture of the butter before adding in the condensed milk, and then beating that. So the entire process took me about 12 minutes of actual constant whisking. Now, depending on what you want to do with it, you want to swap from the whisk attachment to a paddle attachment to ease out the air bubbles, which will give you a smoother buttercream. But we're going to be topping the cupcake with these, so essentially that didn't matter. I completed that process in the same video prior, so you want to check that out. And this is the outcome we have. A good tip for me is to almost always like make my buttercream a day beforehand, whether it's vanilla, whatever flavor I'm going to add to it. Get it done a day beforehand. Leave it to set in the fridge because it allows room for the flavor to develop. And the next day it tastes way better. Try that. But of course, if you're saving buttercream in the fridge, you want to be careful about the environment within which the buttercream is saved. Because if the buttercream is stored in a space where there are strong smelling elements, they will absorb the smells and then take after those smells. So for instance, if you have smelly substances like cheese or stronger spicy food, for instance, you'll find that your buttercream or even cakes would end up absorbing the smells of those. So that's a bit of information to help you get the best out of your buttercream. But back to the Russian buttercream, the reason why I chose to pair this with the cupcake of choice is simply down to preference. For this particular cupcake, I just wanted to eat something that was a little less sweet, wasn't too buttery, because cupcakes tend to be a mouthful, if you like, just for the one. So for the size of this, if I had too much buttercream that overwhelmed the cupcake, I wouldn't be able to eat all of that. I would be tempted to scrape the buttercream to the side and then eat the cupcake by itself, which is not great. Or I'll have to eat some of the buttercream with the cupcake and leave the rest out. I don't want to be able to do that. So today, maybe another day, I would prefer a sweeter cupcake. But because I'm actually baking the cupcake and I have control over the choices and options I have, I chose my ingredients to meet that specific need for me so that my cupcake is not overly sweet and my buttercream is not overly sweet also. I did speak in the previous session about Russian buttercream sometimes being on the too buttery side. And that is because if the butter is not proportionate to the condensed milk, it can leave it with a heavy buttery mouthfeel for you. I have mitigated that by adding icing sugar, 2 spoonfuls, to lift the taste a bit and bring some sweetness without making it oversweet. And then added a touch of salt to balance it out and make the mouthfeel very better and tolerable. It is very light, a bit like if it goes on your tongue, it sits a little bit and then it disappears. You have the aftertaste of the milky feel to the taste, but it's not overly milky. So I know people who probably don't like Russian buttercream. I've seen a few bakers who are not fond of it, but I have explained in the previous video that is down to technique. If you get your butter consistency right, which should give you a good mouthfeel, then of course you can get a great buttercream, which is what I have done here. And the reason why this pairs well with this buttercream, this cupcake, is simply because, like I said, I just wanted something that was a little less sweet, had a milky aftertaste but not too much, was lighter on the tongue, and is not heavy or sickly sweet. So all these preferences of mine affected my choices of ingredients, buttercream, and outcome. Of course, I could have chosen French buttercream, which can be made with whole eggs or egg yolk, but that's a lengthier process, and I felt like I already have that tutorial on this channel, including my favorite Swiss meringue buttercream. I've broken all those down into in-depth details for you to check out, so I'll encourage you to check those out. But doing Russian buttercream also gives you the opportunity to see into some other buttercream options that you may want to choose out here. So, and we're going to top the cupcake off with some white chocolate Kinder Buenos. I like Kinder Buenos. They are light, not too heavy. A bit of chocolate there, but it's not too chocolatey for it to contrast with the cupcake, which is why. And it balances out, it pairs well with the milky taste of the Russian buttercream. So when I say my choices of ingredients and all the selections are paired into what I want this cupcake to be, It informs you that when you understand the baking processes, ingredients, and what you want the outcomes to be, you can make choices surrounding that, because one recipe is not a one cut for all. Now, when I get that done, I'm going to be topping that. Let's just ruin this homemade lovely cupcake with some short ball sauce. Of course, the cupcake is not complete without sauce, and I couldn't be asked to make my own sauce, so we have some mass pre-made or short bought sauce that I'm going to be using. So with that said, let's just go ahead and frost these cupcakes quickly. So to be able to get the right amount quantity into the ice piping bag, what I've done is, of course, I have a glass here, and it just helps to just make it easy to fill the bag easily. And I'm using a star tip here. I'll leave details of that in the description box properly for you in case you want to know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this off over here. This is what we're going to do. I have different tutorials on this channel that you can check out for yourself. So I'll encourage you to check the homepage for baking and decorating made easy. I have a playlist. Now for this cupcake, I could also add a filling, but I just don't want to make it overly sweet at all. So what I have here is exactly how I prefer it to be. And as you can see, the amount of buttercream here is just enough for one cupcake, so that I am not tempted to scrape it all off. So that's about, so for the quantity of buttercream we made, we could frost 24 cupcakes easily, especially with the quantity we have. But that's a Kinder Bueno on there. There's nothing that beats having a lightly and simply decorated cupcake. And hopefully the sauce will come out of this easily for me. Okay, it's come out. Oh, okay. So we have some mass sauce on here. Oh, I don't like the sound of that. Okay, let's see. Okay, so essentially, I don't like the sound of that at all. Yeah, and there we have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer these onto my small cupcake stand here. And how easy were these to make? I think in total, including washing up this and cooling time, there's probably about 2.5 hours, and that's a whole hour of perhaps not doing anything because I was leaving the cupcakes to cool. But that aside, can you imagine making these can you imagine making these easily at home for your friends and family? They're going to love you, and you are going to feel like a right star for making these simple but nicely presented, well textured cupcake. So now that we've made the cupcake, what do? We need to eat a cupcake. Anyway, who is judging? I am going to help myself to a cupcake right here, and let's all see what that looks like. Now, if I stick that in my mouth and I cannot talk, we'll end the live, and I'll be back with more baking sessions. But before that, let's say, should I eat this or the one with the Kinder Bueno? That's okay. I actually should eat a full cupcake with everything on it. That's a good excuse to eat a cupcake. So let's see. So look at the crumb of that cupcake, right? How do you eat your cupcake? A bit like I don't know. It's a bit confusing. Okay, right. So I'm just going to stick a fork in there. I think what I need is a cup of tea. A cup of tea is so well deserved. The taste and the layers of flavor in this cupcake is not anything I can explain right now. Let me just get a cup of tea.